Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Silvana Masella. I'm the CEO of Trust IT and the technical coordinator of the ALLPROS Consortium. You are joining the Bridging the Skills Shortage in the EU Semiconductor Industry, and you have in front of you a wonderful set of speakers who have given up their time for us this afternoon for a couple of hours to talk about this incredibly important topic at the moment. ALLPROS is a coordination support action supported by the European Commission under the Digital Europe programme. It's for 36 months. Together with my company, Trust IT, we have IDC, Open Forum Europe, and White Research, who kindly put together the agenda that you have with us today. A couple of housekeeping points on the next slide. So the event will be recorded. So this will be made available to you all on the ALLPROS website. We do encourage you to enter any questions in the dedicated Q&A box. We love it when this is very active, and please do use the chat too. If you want to give us any updates on activities that you're working on around, specifically on skills, we will keep all of this, and this will hopefully be part of our post-event report that all the speakers have kindly already contributed to. So we're going to put something together and then deliver this to tackle this very important point subject in Europe at the moment. So what I do want to start with, and if we move to the next slide, is despite layoffs, and I want to start with a quote from IDC, despite layoffs in the tech industry at the end of 2022 and 2023, the search for IT talent continues to be fueled in Europe as the speed of digitalization outpaces the supply of professionals in the market. Growth in ICT development, you'll see here, is expected to reach 4.5% in 2023 and have a CAGR of 4.8% between 2021 and 26. Advanced digital transformation skills continue to be in high demand, leading to growth in employment for data, machine learning, and applications-related job roles. But there is also demand for legacy technology skills too, especially in the applications and support-related job roles, as organizations are continuing the transformation of their core IT infrastructures and application estates. We've pulled together a set of people that you see in front of you who are going to describe exactly some of these issues and how they're being tackled or not, how they're being tackled in their area of expertise. And we've assembled government, industry, and academic specialists here in front of you. So without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor to the director of DG Connect at the European Commission, Lucilla Scioli. We're so glad that she was able to join us for the beginning of this webinar, but I'd like to thank each and every one of you because we're expecting some super discussions to hopefully have, with the collaboration of the CSA, ALLPROS, and other related initiatives, put on the table some strategic elements of how we can tackle this skills shortage in the coming weeks and months. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to Lucilla Scioli. Good afternoon, Lucilla. Thank you. And I'm so glad we managed to get you here. I know we had a few hiccups. Thank you. Lucilla, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Silvana. And I hope this connection stays, because I'm also experiencing a lot of connection problems, like you speak and you freeze. And so I really hope I managed to speak now for the 10 minutes that I was allocated. So first of all, thanks to you for the invitation, and thanks to all the participants for being here. And I'm really pleased to open this workshop because I really think that the skills issue in digital in general and in microelectronics in particular is a very serious issue that we have to handle with greatest care. First of all, with the good news. The good news is that we have agreed on a CHIPS Act with the Council and the Parliament on the 18th of April. And it was an important political discussion, but what is most important is that this discussion was unique It obviously came because we experienced some shortages in the semiconductor sector and because we live in a very complicated geopolitical setting. But what is important is that the European Union put the resources available for strengthening the semiconductor sector. And in particular, they agreed, or the European Community agreed, to devote 3.3 billion euros to strengthen research and innovation and strengthening the capacity of the semiconductor sector. This is a budget that adds to existing budget in the sector that is going to be matched by the member states. And so we are looking at an envelope of about 11, 12 billion euros, which is similar to what the United States, if you want, are also dedicating to research and innovation in this sector. And this budget is meant to finance the program called Chips for Europe initiative, which is in the first pillar of the CHIPS Act, and which includes a chapter on skills. But what I want to highlight is the importance of the agreement, simply because it's the first time that European member states actually agree and have unanimous consensus towards a European strategy in this field. I think this is very, very important. The European Commission tried in the past, didn't succeed. So I really consider this almost an historical moment for the Union. But we can already start working on skills. So first of all, you may remember the three pillars of the CHIPS Act. We had the first pillar is this Chips for Europe initiative that I've just mentioned, which aims at strengthening research and innovation and capacities, in particular building pilot lines, a design platform, but also a network of competence centers. And it's really these competence centers that are supposed to be developed across the European Union, who will be in charge of managing or mastering or delivering the skills policy under the Chips for Europe initiative. So very important to pay attention to the competence centers. We aim at having one in every member state. And this may be research and technology organizations, or it can be a university. And they will really have the task of connecting SMEs, universities, and other players to the infrastructure, pilot lines, design platform. And on top of them, they will also have to offer skills and training for being able to work in this sector, or at least to help the universities and help the training providers to reach out to the candidates and be able to raise the skills of the workforce as necessary in this area. And the second pillar is instead about aligning, if you want, our stated rules, our internal market rules for the semiconductor sector. And this is going to make Europe a more attractive place to invest. And we expect investment from large factories. We already have some investments that are already even passed through our stated control, like ST Microelectronics in Sicily, or more recently Liberty Global in France, which is Global Foundries with ST Microelectronics. But of course, we have the announcements of Intel, we have the announcement of Infineon strengthening its capability, we have the announcement of maybe TSMC is going to come to the European Union, and all this is going to mean a big demand for workforce. It also means that the design segment of the sector is likely to strengthen, simply because we're going to have some mega factory, and because also in the first pillar, we are going to make available a design platform exactly to strengthen the design capabilities. So these are all areas where we need more talent and more people to work on, and the whole of the CHIPS Act is going to bring these needs. So what are we going to do about it? Already the fact that we make it very clear in the CHIPS Act that the skills is an essential element is a first step. Secondly, we have put it as part of the Chips for Europe initiative, as I said earlier, and this means that it will be devoted some budget which will be matched by the member states, but still I expect this to be a significant amount of budget compared to what we have ever done in the past. And so some of this budget will be managed by the competence center, as I said earlier. Other budget will be managed directly by the European Commission. It will be channeled through the Digital Europe program. And we have actually already started having some calls in the Digital Europe program in 2023. We don't have a dedicated objectives for semiconductors yet. We will have one in the future after the summer. So for the moment, we have put our calls under the specific objective 4, which is the objective for skills. We will also continue working on the Pact for Skills on microelectronics. And this, as many of you already know, is about engaging stakeholders that are committed to equip the workforce with the necessary skills, in particular through public-private partnerships. And here I want to highlight the importance that industry has to play in this particular area, because very often there is simply an expectation that governments will support and take care of education or skills. But as this is also aiming at filling a gap of workforce that is needed by industry, it's very important that industry steps in as well. And there are many ways for industry to step in. They can offer on-the-job learning, they can pledge jobs, they can host the students already during their PhDs, or they can organize boot camps or summer schools, and basically make sure that their demand for labor is attractive to students and to possible candidates. And of course, I would also expect salaries to be competitive in this sense, because it's also about being more attractive than other engineering area or related area. And I think that not only industry and the Commission have to do something about it, but also member states have a role to play. Member states at the moment have to spend quite a significant amount of the recovery and resilience funds, and we expect some of those funds to be spent on skills. So I also expect member states to come in to support skills. Let's not forget that education is a national competence, and they can come in different ways. And I think, for example, an area where it would be very important to come in is by offering scholarships. Scholarships should not be disseminated across all the possible disciplines that we have at the university level. It would be good if they could be more focused on areas where we have clear gaps, like STEM or engineering. And also it would be good if they were focused also to try to target the female talent, because of course this is what you will be discussing today. If we could only tap into the pool of the female talent, we would have probably solved all our issues of having sufficient talent in digital. We have to attract more ladies. Of course, there is an initiative that needs to be made throughout the educational years, but we also can try to attract more female participation already at the university level, or for a master, for example. Scholarships don't have to be only for PhDs, they can also be for masters. And so I think that these are really practical steps that member states could take, and that in some countries, it is also important that the scholarships are sufficiently high to be really attractive for students to undertake the studies. Before I close, I just would like to recall the names of the calls that we have published, in particular in the Digital Europe program. We have a call for advanced digital skills in key capacity areas, and 2 projects have been selected for a total of about 50 million euros. Then we have another call with that is very much linked to gender inclusion. And this is a call that has been, where 2 projects have been retained as well for about 16 million euros. And then in the context of Erasmus+, we also have a call on the sectoral cooperation on skills. So this is implementing the blueprint on skills. And this is about 4 million euros. And it's about really creating a network between industry and academics. So to conclude, I would like to say that with the CHIPS Act, we put in place an ambitious plan to strengthen our semiconductor ecosystem. But for this ecosystem to really be thriving and be resilient, we need to have the skilled workforce that is necessary for this sector. And we have to try to be able to involve not only the large companies, but also the small, medium enterprises, and also making work attractive in the small, medium enterprises is going to be an important effort to be made. So without the necessary skills, we will probably build cathedrals in the desert. We will use also our international cooperation mechanisms to see if we can attract some talent also from non-European countries. But what is important today is to discuss how we can make our youth, and in particular ladies and any other relevant dimension from the point of view of inclusion, that can really participate and get satisfaction in this world, which is going to be almost new in the European Union, because it's going to be a lot of new investments, a lot of new realities that are going to need to help and are going to need to have talent to make them possible. So it's a unique opportunity for the European Union, and I hope we can all realize it together. And the workshop of today is an important step in that direction. Thank you very much.
Lucilla, thank you indeed. Thank you very, very much for that. Very important landscape and overview. And in fact, at the end of today's workshop session, there's going to be more details on the calls that you did mention. So please stay tuned to listen to that. If you stay with us, Lucilla, we'll be extremely grateful. We know you're also terribly busy. Let me move then immediately on to our session 1. I'm going to pass the floor to Davide Casarin from White Research, project manager there, who put the agenda together on exploring avenues to integrate inclusion into initiatives and projects promoting skills development. Over to you, Davide. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lucilla, from my side for this first overview. We can now move on to our next session, as Silvana mentioned. This afternoon, we will have the chance to hear from 3 initiatives, 1 already established, up and running, and 2 more upcoming and under development that promote skills in the semiconductor sector. As mentioned, feel free to add in the chat any questions you might have for our speakers, letting us know who your question is addressed to. And at the end of this session, we will let our speakers answer. Without further ado, let's begin from the EU STEM Coalition, represented today by one of its founders, Beatrice Lutz. Beatrice, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Since this is going to be 5 minutes, I go to some slides very quickly. In the end, you'll find all the information if you want to have more of it. So my name is Beatrice Lutz. In the Netherlands, I'm the director of the platform Talent for Technology. And it's an organization set up by the Dutch government, by several ministries, economic affairs, social affairs, and education. And we also are a public-private organization working together with companies in industry and schools. Next slide, please. I'm also, this is my old presentation. Maybe I changed it because it was only 5 minutes. So maybe, I don't know if it's possible to get the other one, and I'll continue talking so we don't waste any time. So let me tell you a little bit about the European STEM Coalition. The European STEM Coalition is actually a network of STEM platforms. And in each country, we have a platform like ours in the Netherlands, where we work with the so-called Triple Helix organization. And triple helix, we mean industry, education, and the government. And in these countries, we explore what we are doing, what are the good practices, and we try to scale up the good practices. And by now, countries like Germany, which is not a national government if it comes to education, but it's more the Bundesländer, is active. It's Estonia, it's the Scandinavian countries, Spain, France, the UK is still in there. So there are a lot of, yes, that's a good one, thank you. So there are a lot of organizations active, and within the network, we facilitate the exchange of the best practices, and I will tell you shortly about a few of them if it comes to how do we attract girls. We support the development of national STEM strategies. A few weeks ago, we had a meeting in Hungary where we had people from Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Croatia, and maybe I forgot one or two, who are also willing to learn from us and establish a STEM platform in their country. And they actually have a bit more people choosing STEM, but those people move away to other countries. So in the end, they still need more STEM people. So they also want a more holistic approach, like we try to do in all the other countries. And so the members are STEM platforms, also European partners like Digital Europe, or the technical students who also have their own groups of active partners, and some national lead partners. Next slide, please. So what other role? I'm trying to first picture you the big picture, and I'll later come to the more practical things that we are doing. So it's all starting with the ambition of the partners of working together, and whether that's in the Netherlands as a partner as itself, then in Europe, it's more or less the same, that we want to close the gap between education system and the labor market. And unfortunately, it's not easy. So we need all these partners, and we have to cooperate. And what we also need is a very long-term approach. No short things are working, because otherwise we would have solved it. So the triple helix approach I told you earlier, you need all these partners involved. And in some countries, that's easier than other countries. In Paris, it's a very national approach on education. So it's more difficult to include industrial partners, but even they are now having a STEM platform where companies are active. And in the Netherlands, we actually started 20 years ago. And when we started with working together with schools and companies, we had 20 or 50 questions in parliament or something. But nowadays, I think if we would stop the cooperation, people will complain the other way around to say, hey, why is industry stopping and working together with us? So over time, things change, but it takes a while. What we also try to do is not to make new programs or projects. We don't need. There are a lot of projects and things. There are a lot of nice things in countries. So within the STEM coalition itself, we don't do new ones. We try to make the good ones better, and we want to scale them up. So we look at the proven concepts, and those can differ in countries. You see, in some countries, a television show on nice concepts works, but in the Netherlands, for instance, it wouldn't work, because children don't look at it anymore. We are actually in favor of setting quantitative goals, especially name what your goal is going to be. For instance, the industry in the Netherlands has now said that they want 30% women in the industry by 2030. We think it's a bit unrealistic goal if you look at the numbers in schools, but it's good with your sector to put a quantitative goal, so at least you work together on it. And the roles of the platform is stimulating, initiating, and connecting all those innovations. So if industry comes to us to say, don't start your own project, try to get involved with the existing projects. Education likes that a lot more than getting all those new people, new projects, and new goals all the time. Because in the end, they say, well, my students will go to one of your industries or to one of your companies, and we can't do something specific for each company. That's too difficult in general for the education system. We want to work as much as bottom up, but with some guidance from top down. So in Europe, we have a few papers on how to attract more women. We've exchanged that with all the partners. So the general information, the general data is there. Everybody can use it. It's all open source. So please use all the things that are already there. One of the things that is important, that we call it a chain approach. That means you start in primary education, you see the leaking of the students to the secondary education or vocational education, et cetera, and you try to focus on the points where you miss out most of the students. That's often in high school when it's possible to choose for physics or math or not. So at that point, industry is very important to be involved, because usually students say, I don't see a career for myself in industry or microelectronics. And if they don't see the use of it, or they don't see the relevance, or they don't have interest in it, they will not choose it. So we found in most of the research we've done, the careers to students is very important. And if they don't see a future for themselves in there, they will not choose it. They will go another path. And usually if that's not STEM, it's very difficult to get them back. Next slide, please. Sorry, it's a dog here. One of the things we've done is look at what kind of things find students interesting. And especially if you look at girls, sorry about this, you probably heard this. Hey. We have developed a beta tech mentality model. I'm not going to tell you a lot about it. It's more focused on why are women insecure about their possibilities in STEM, and are there other ways of communicating with them, for instance, to show that you can be an entrepreneur, for instance, that you do work with other people and that you work on societal projects. That's very important for women. I can give you a whole presentation about it. I won't do that now, but if you're interested, that's one of the things we are working with within the Netherlands, and this model we also exchange with the other partners in the European STEM Coalition. So maybe we go to the next slides, because I'm afraid we get to the 5 minutes very quickly. We have a position paper on STEM skills and the transition to what it means to get women involved and what are important messages. Well, I don't think it's a no-brainer, but we suggest everybody look very well at the monitoring effects, and that we have to work together on develop the measures. And that within each countries, we offer you to work together with us to make sure you get very quickly to the good partners who already work with schools and the government and industry partners and companies, so that you work together, especially on the possibilities you have for female roles, and the career guidance practice is very important in it. Maybe next slide, please. So the wrap up is there are no easy solutions. These networks in all the countries are there for you to work together on. We are actually already a part in the Chip Skills Academy as a STEM coalition. So through this approach, you can easily reach all the partners in the network. And we are also working on the Chips Diversity Alliance. Try these new ways of communicating. I often look, and when I speak somewhere, at the websites of organizations. And also it's still in the Netherlands, if you look at websites of industrial partners, you see only males by themselves. If a girl or a woman looks at it, it's like, that's not really my world, I'm not that interested. So also as an individual company, you can already do something to be more appealing for women. And focus on the jobs and the careers is very essential for them. What kind of work will they be working, or will they be part of, and what's the long-term, what is the long-term effect on that? And actually in the Netherlands, we all do these things, but we also focus on men, because the combination of men and women in the center, that's in the end, of course, very important. Next slides. So very shortly, 3 good practices. You'll find them on the website of the European STEM Coalition. This one is in Norway. It's with girls, how you focus on them and have events in your country. I think these slides will be shared, so you can have the website to look at this approach. Maybe we can go to the next slide. It's one in Spain. And it's also to attract females to technology and engineering. This is also focused on young girls. But we actually need programs or approaches in each level of the chain. So it could be primary schools, could be later, could be more vocational excellent. So you see there are already a few nice examples. Maybe you can go to the next one. I think it's another Norwegian program. And so that if you want to get active quickly, maybe you can join those programs. And there's actually also one in Bulgaria. And that's on the Centers of Vocational Excellence. That's a new program by the European Commission. There's a lot of money for cooperation in Europe between centers of excellence. It's focused on vocational training. And there is one on microelectronics, and it's organized by Bulgaria. And actually the Center of Women in Technologies is also involved in that. So one of the focus points there is also women. And then the next slide, I think it's the last one. Yes, is my email if you want to have more information. Some of the programs I can have a speech for hours if you want. The STEM Coalition is there, the Dutch platform PTVT is there. So we think it's very important to focus on this. I think there are good examples which all start from a basic starting point throughout the whole chain of education. Industry is very important. Without that, the education will not change. So it's very good that you focus on this also in your own programs. And I'll leave it to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for this great presentation. I already see some keywords that will resurface later during our panel discussion. And indeed, I wanted to confirm all the material will be shared on our website in our post-event report. So it will be available to whoever wants to have a look. Next up, we have Salvatore Moccia. He's the head of Master and Doctoral School for EIT Digital, and today we'll present the Academy platform.
Yes.
Over to you.
Thank you, David. Let's see if I can share my screen. Can you see my presentation? So let me start. As David has said, I am the head of Master School.
Salvatore, can you put it in? Yeah, full screen. Perfect now. Thank you.
Yes. So as David was saying before, I am the head of Master and Doctoral School at EIT Digital. And those are some numbers regarding EIT Digital. We have been training already more than 3,000 people. We have a cooperation with 56 universities. In particular, what I do, I manage 7 tech masters, master in big data, master in cybersecurity and embedded system, in cooperation with 15 universities. So we recruit students from European Union and non-European Union, and we have 21 offices in Europe and 1 in the United States. Those are some numbers, but let me go quickly to the topic of today. So basically, I am professor of strategic management. So whatever I do, I always start my analysis from the strategic perspective. And I completely agree in what Silvana and Lucilla have been presenting already regarding all the things that are happening in the semiconductor sector, and it's huge what is really happening after the COVID, et cetera, but I have also to take into consideration other elements. When I go to the, let's say, tech labor market, I do not see only difficulties from the semiconductor. I see a lot of difficulties because everyone right now is looking for those, let's say, tech experts. Why? Because the companies, the industries, they have been changing. You see here, we have been moving, let's say, from an operating model that was traditional, and we have been incorporating more and more digital technologies to our companies. And so we left behind this old vision of industry 1.4, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and we are moving to 4.0, putting more and more technologies in our factories, in our industries, et cetera, but there are some companies that are already moving to other business models that they are calling 5.0 and 6.0. So what it happens when I go to the labor market, it's not only this, what we have right now in the slide, the semiconductor market, that it's really growing. And so, what I see also, as Lucilla was also highlighting, this is becoming a strategic problem because the European Commission, they finally realize that those skills, it's an important, let's say, shortage for the European Union. So, and the semiconductors will become more and more critical and strategical, I would say, European assets. This is the European Chips Act that Lucilla was mentioning before. It's nice that she also highlighted this, the element on this skills shortage. And again, I put together now what is happening from the semiconductor point of view and what is happening in the general industry point of view, and there is a big shift. There is a big shift. So, and I go back again to what we do. I go back to what we do, and I understand that we cannot still, let's say, maintain the old traditional higher education model. We should advance. as also was mentioned before by Beatrice, we should advance and we should try to make experiment on new different models. For example, here in EIT Digital, we are working with this the academic concept. And the academic concept, it's not anymore like master and doctoral school. For example, Lucilla was mentioning before master and doctoral schools, but she was also saying that if we have this skills shortage and we really would like to close the gap between education labor market, we have to work also on the other sides. And we are imagining already working, for example, with executive and / professional programs. We are already implementing some summer programs. We are already implementing some short courses, postgraduate courses. Why? Because we believe, and I go to the concept of this long life learning, that at today we have to see education not anymore is like a single entry point as it was at the beginning. I mean, if I go back to 20 years ago, you were going to the universities, you were getting a degree, a master, you're getting a job, and that was done. Now it's we call it a circular learning. You start from the university, you go to the companies, you go back again to the university or whatever it is. Why? Because today skills are more important of past roles. So it's not anymore let's say a problem of past role. Before I was software developer, yeah, but the software that you were developing, it's an old one. So it's not anymore a problem of having, let's say, a title or getting a role. It's a problem of evolving. You should evolve. We should evolve. So it's not, again, a problem of getting an MBA and that's it. No, you should evolve your skills. Now, actions are more important than the past medals. Again, I was the man in charge of developing the software for, no. Now, what you can do now? What you can do with this new development system? What can you do now in the semiconductor industry? What can you do now? And another important point, this circular learning. Again, going back to the university, back to work, back to university, etc., etc. But as the other speakers already highlighted, it's not anymore possible to do it in isolated way. I mean, I see universities well connected with partners that are the industries, partners that are the other stakeholders. We should start connecting each other. We should start talking each other and understand what are the needs on the market. And we should also understand how we can redesign our programs. I cannot see anymore a university delivering the same program that was designed 10 years ago. Why? Especially in the technological sector, because the tech sector is changing a lot. And another important element, flexibility. Today, we need to be more and more flexibility. And so what does it mean in reality? What we are doing, we are enlarging our perspective, let's say, of potential customers. We do not focus anymore on master school students, on doctoral students. We are opening up our targets. We are focusing also on women. We are also focusing on women, for example, at 15 years old. Why we do not start with delivering short programs during the summertime, for example? And we are already playing with some experiments like this. But I'm thinking also regarding the grandfather. Why we do not train the grandfather? I mean, the grandfather also, he needs some, let's say, tech skills if you want to have a video call with a family. And I go back again to the semiconductor. So semiconductors, it's one of the industry that it's really, let's say, reshaping the future of the world, like artificial intelligence, like cybersecurity, etc., etc. And so this is the reason why we have been developing the academic concept, but focusing on these three specific industries that we have here. But when we see the future of lifelong learning, we do not see, let's say, the technical skills. Yeah, technical skills are important. But today we see also that it's important to have power skills and tactical skills. We should also be able to transmit to our tech experts also the ability to understand the market, the ability to understand the consumers, the ability to communicate using some social media, whatever it is, the ability to design a product for a specific market. And this is in reality what we are doing. So until now, everything is just, let's say, theoretical concept. What we are doing in reality, we are developing a platform. This is what we call a digital skill passport. We are developing a platform where we can really match, let's say, users, so students, I would say, I would use this general concept of students, companies, and also higher education institutions. So what does it mean in reality? I am Jenny. Let's say, I enter in this platform. I give to the platform all my skills, the higher education and whatever it is, and also I tell to the platform the kind of job that I'm looking for. And so once the platform knows who I am, the platform can automatically, this is the big difference from the past and today. The platform automatically will do the matchmaking between what I'm looking for and the job position opens. Now, there could be a match. I mean, there could be a company that is looking for a profile like me, and so the platform will connect the company and the students. But there is also another possibility that we are also imagining. The platform see that you are missing some skills. You want to get that job, but you are missing some skills. And the platform will suggest to you the kind of learning content that you have to take. That it could be, for example, a short courses, it could be a master class, a master program, it could be a doctoral program, etc., whatever you want. So, and this is controlled by an algorithm and done automatically. So we believe that this is something huge. We believe that this could be really the passport that we can provide everyone, companies, stakeholders, students, and there could be the perfect match of to reduce the gap between the education and the labor market. And that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Salvatore, for your presentation. And then last but not least, and I'll give the word to Professor Enrico Sangiorgi of the University of Bologna. He's member of the INEAS board and chairs of the INEAS Scientific Council. Over to you, Enrico. I believe you're still muted. Enrico. Okay.
Sorry about that. I forgot to switch on my microphone.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to share with you a few slides about this new initiative, a summer school, which we named Fascinating Electronics for a Cool World. It is an initiative of the three industry associations, ENEAS, ALLPROS, and Inside. I think you can go on the next slide. Yes. And the story is very simple. In the last, during the last fall, while on the CHIPS Act, it was mentioned and it opened the discussion about the skill shortage. We started to discuss about something that could be done, at least could be tried in a relatively short time. So the three associations decided to join forces and organize a summer school for a certain number of students. The goals are the following, as I sum up here. We would like to inspire, at least to try a model to inspire the new generation to become professional in our ecosystem by by exposing these youngsters to a number of lecturers from testimonials from the industry and RTO, and covering the entire spectrum of the electronics component and system chain. The key messages that we would like to give are the following. This is a cool world. It is a very diversified field with a lot of new things that could be invented. It is changing the way we live, and it is at the heart of a sustainable future. Can you go on one slide? Yes. We picked up a location, which is the University of Bologna location for summer schools. It is in a medieval village close to Bologna. It's called Bertinoro. It is a very fascinating place. It is a place where the students will live together and socialize for 1 week together with the speakers. The students will be 40. They will undergo a 5-day program at the end of August, and we had long discussions about the target of the students, who should be selected, and the final choice was on students that already went through 2 years of undergraduate programs and 1 year to go. And the reason is that we would like to inspire them for their choice of the master, which is crucial for their future career. The call is ending next week, the opening for the applications. We have close to 200 applications all over Europe, and we will select 40 of them, maybe a few more, on gender balance, geographical balance, and their ability to retain and amplify the information. I want also to mention that this is an initiative completely supported by the 3 associations, not because there is no opportunities in the CHIPS Act, for example, but because we wanted really to go fast and try this in the shortest time as possible. So the 3 associations had done this effort to totally sponsor the initiative. Go ahead, one slide. Yes, so 5 days and 4 main topics: technology, design, digital systems, and integration. And in this page, you see a summary of the content of each day. For example, the first day will be on technology, with the survey on the main processing steps for manufacturing, addressing the problem of the reduction of the carbon footprint and so forth. The second day will address the main class of circuits with important testimonials. For example, we will have Bruno Murari, that is a pioneer of a European and world industry and the father of the MEMS. And then we have 1 day on digital systems in order to tell the students how the world and this community does not end with the semiconductors, but there is an entire world for the systems and the way in which the systems are connected to the applications. And finally, the day devoted to integration with very important topics like the heterogeneous integration and the reliability and so forth. Go ahead, one slide. Yeah, that is at glance the program for the week. The students will reach the location during the day of the 20th August, and then you see that every day it is devoted to a different topic, but each of these days are also well, they are with a session with demonstrators. Sometimes demonstrators are done in a different physical environment if they need to be arranged there, or they can be done during the class. We have social activities with the speakers, several nice event during the week, and a special session devoted to career testimonies, youngster professionals from the industry that will tell and communicate with the students the way they have reached their positions. Go ahead, one slide. Yes, and this is the Gantt chart, the time frame, the time log of the initiative. Today, we are close to the closing of the opening period. Then we have a couple of weeks to select the students. They will have to confirm their presence within the month of June. The speakers have been 95% defined, so there are refinements to do, and the summer school will start on August 20th. Then we will have an important activity, which is the impact evaluation, to understand how to, if we made mistakes in the first session, what can be improved, and very important, how to scale up an initiative for 40 students to much more students for the future. I think that is the last slide. Yes, so this is the site, the website where you can find more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrico. So I guess we echo the call to action, because I believe the deadline for the summer school is still open until the 25th. So spread the word.
Yeah.
A couple of points before moving on to the next panel. If Beatrice and the other speakers agree, I would like to save the question asked by, and the topic raised by Nuria in the chat on representation and communication of women in this sector. I think this is very relevant to be sort of earmarked for our second panel discussion on inclusion. And maybe with Francoise and the other panelists, make a mental note and address this topic later, because I think it's a good talking point. Last point I wanted to, I think I believe you're able to see some extra resources about the METIS project that I wanted to highlight. Christopher Freeling will later add more details on this project, but together with the other links and the other information, we'll make all the information available in a report. Once more, I wanted to thank all the speakers for their presentations. And if there is no other questions, I think it's now time to move on to our first panel. Maybe we have questions for Enrico.
I think Enrico's going to answer in the chat.
From Roger. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we can. Oh, sorry, Enrico, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I just was answering by in the writing the question I had from Roger Dekesmaker.
Okay. I mean, go ahead if you want to answer. Otherwise, we can continue in the chat. It's
Maybe I can answer. Yes, as I said during at the end of the talk, that is one of the questions we have. We definitely have to scale it up, but probably we could put together a format and, for example, handle to the future competence centers. You know, that is. If the format is successful, then we have done most of the work in order not to repeat the same errors and hand it out to the competence centers. If each competence center could organize such a school, that is already 800 people instead of 40.
Thank you, Enrico. And yes, I believe the deadline is on the 25th. So since our agenda, as Silvana mentioned at the beginning, is very packed, it is actually time to move to our panel discussion. Our panelists today for this session will share their insights on how partnerships between industry, academia, and government can promote innovation in the microelectronics sector through skills development. But also they will discuss challenges and potential solutions. The triple helix keyword already emerged in Beatrice's presentation, but this is the spirit of this panel. We'll also hear about more successful examples of collaboration activities for skills development. And we have today an impressive lineup of experts representing different perspectives from within the industry. So without further ado, I would like to start the session giving them the opportunity to introduce themselves. Let's go through the list. I see Bernard Capraro.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, everyone, I hope you can hear me. You can call me Bernie. It's quite formal on the title here. But yeah, Bernie Capraro. I'm a semiconductor engineer of many years, hence the white hair that you see in front of you now. I started actually as a student in Germany in 1987. On the 1st of May 1987 at approximately 10:30 in the morning, I was walked into a clean room for the very first time. And I was blown away with what I saw. And ever since then, that is what I've worked on, semiconductors. For the last 26 years with Intel in Ireland, a fab engineer, an area manager as part of the factory, and then 2006 moving into research. How will we make the chips in 10, 15 years from now? So I had many great collaborations with some of the friends I see on the screen in front of me now across Europe for a number of years. And then at the same time, I was also asked to build relationships with the universities here in Ireland. We saw that we were building new factories. That was on the horizon. And many of you know, Ireland's a small country. It's been very successful with inward investment. You know, so every company is just here, you know, that you hear on Microsoft, Google, we're all here, Analog Devices. So we do compete for talent. So it's very important that you do have a footprint in the universities, or even better, a fingerprint in the universities. You're working together with partners and developed a really nice program that is the triple helix. You know, we have the university partners and we also have government and other industry partners in some of the things. And maybe I'll get a chance to describe some of those as we go through this discussion.
Definitely. Let's continue this very brief introduction and then let's dive into it during our panel. Next, we representing the government perspective. We have with us today Roland Krupel. Couple of words on yourself, Roland.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roland Krupel. I work at the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. I'm a physicist by training, actually, but I'm serving as a civil servant in the ministry. I'm responsible there for strategy and European activities in microelectronics R&D. My previous responsibilities include the federal supercomputing activities, and there also the European partnership EuroHPC.
Thank you, Roland. Next up today we have also Yannick Trecher from ASML. Hello,
Yes.
Yannick.
Thank you very much, Davide. Obligatory question, does the technology work? Can you all hear me fine?
Yes, we'll hear
Very
you
good.
loud and clear.
So Yannick Traege coming from Brussels, loud and clear, from ASML, where I work in the external relations team as a government affairs manager, covering, amongst other things, skills and R&D policy. So at a broader level, it is my job to make partnerships between ourselves, academia, and governments work in the long term. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Yannick. Then representing the Sinano Institute, Francis Balestra.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Francis Balestra. So I am in Grenoble. I am Director of Research in the National Center for Scientific Research in France, working in the field of micro nanoelectronics, material devices, and smart system. I am also in charge of the European activity of Grenoble Institute of Technology, and in charge of the Sinano Institute, which is a European institution gathering 25 leading university and research center working in the field of micro nanoelectronics from 15 European countries. I also I am coordinating the ICOS Horizon Europe project devoted to international cooperation in semiconductor, mainly devoted to research, but also we take into account training activities. So this ICOS project deals with the international cooperation of the European Chip Act. And the last part of my activity is the field of the support of startup in order to, so for the development of startup at European and international levels, so in the framework of Grenoble ALP ecosystem.
Thank you, Francis. And I saved Anna for last because I would like to start with her the first question. So Anna Riverola completes the panel today.
Yes, hello. I'm Ana Riverola. I'm Spain country manager and head of R&D programs for the group, for Cyprus groups. I have an MSc, a master's degree in satellite remote sensing and GIS and an executive MBA. And I have over 17 years of experience in R&D project management from SMEs, large companies, research centers, universities, and NGOs.
Thank you, Anna. So let's start from you then. I would like to hear the perspective of a startup and scale-up like CyPearl on the theme of the questions. How do you think that partnerships between industry, academia, and government can promote innovation in the microelectronic sectors? And what role diversity and inclusion play in this regard?
Yeah, thank you, David. First of all, I would like to state that from the SME or startup point of view, everything that has been said so far, it's very different from us. From our relation with the government and the academia, mainly because we cannot just rely on the amount of funding that we can put on the table or into the country. We have to rely on other things. For example, we have to leverage on the fact that we are working in a strategic sector for countries and for the EU. And also in our case, the fact that we have research centers in 3 different countries. So we can put these kind of advantages on the table when we propose collaboration. Okay, so going back to your question, how this interaction can promote innovation. First of all, for innovation to take place, on our view, let's say, we need professionals that lead it and implement it. And for that to happen, we need, first of all, a market full of this kind of talented people. I think this is one of the things that I think it's going to be today talk a lot about, so I will leave it here. Secondly, and it has already been mentioned, and I'm very glad to hear that, it's that we need these 3 actors to align on the goals, not just short term, it's medium and long term, because innovation and skills are long-term things. And that's something that we are suffering now for this lack of alignment so far. I think an example, a very good example of something that worked is something that has already been mentioned also, that it's the EU sovereignty in the semiconductor that was already mentioned before the pandemic. It was already in 2018. And then it was matched with the European Chips Act in 21. And finally, all the calls that were launched in Horizon Europe, or in that case, it was Horizon EU 2020 and Euro HPC. With Euro HPC, what we saw that I think it was fantastic is that the requirement of this match of funding from the national government and also the EU. So you really need an alignment there for projects to be approved. And in that project, let's say, calls is where we have the European Processor Initiative, that Cyber is part of it. Actually, we were born in one of these European Processor Initiative projects. And then at the country level, the first thing that it's needed, and it's something that I have not heard so far, is that the government needs to really listen to the industry. I think that in order for the academia to be able to draw and prepare the talents that we will need, or the skills that we will need in the future, you need industry to really tell you their needs. At the moment in Spain, we are at this phase. We have been announced the PERTE. I don't know if everybody's or anyone is familiar with that, but it's from the recovery funds, and it's to develop the value chain and semiconductor industry in Spain and the skills needed. As an SME or a startup, what we have done in order to have our feedback here by the government, it's to associate with other SMEs and large industries in order to provide our feedback to the government, and with the hope that this will be really used in order to later align with the academia. Yeah, and regarding diversity, well, I think we all know that the lack of professionals, it's global. So this is just something that it's a must at the moment. We try to compensate this by opening R&D sites in 3 countries. But even though we still have to import talent from other countries, so we have at the moment in the company about 18 nationalities. So in any of the research centers that we have over 5 languages being taught at the same time on a regular basis, which some people might think that that's an additional difficulty or challenge. But for us, I think it's the opposite. It really keeps us an open mind and a way to approach things with the flexibility that it's needed in order to really improve in R&D and innovation in this case. Regarding gender, I think all of this that has been shared so far, it's brilliant. We still think that where most of the work needs to be done, it's at high school level. When girls and boys reach university, or boys, men and women reach university, there are already very few of them that choose technical degrees, and even less that choose degrees in the semiconductor sector. So we have started some collaboration with French high schools and Spanish high schools to try to push a little bit the girls to see that it's an okay job and that there are role models there that they can see themselves reflect to. And then we also, as a company, try to really make women in R&D visible, which means giving the floor to ladies as much as we can that they are in R&D, in the communication, of course. And then we also work very close with universities in France, in Spain, and in Germany. I think later on we will talk about different types of collaboration things that we all are doing. So I'll leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And before moving on to and building on one aspect that you highlighted, which is sustainability and long-term approach, I wanted to quickly open the discussion on if to other industry players here in the panel, and if they relate to this panoramic view, and if they have to, if they can add anything to this.
Yeah, maybe I could add to that. So this is Bernie speaking from Ireland. So yeah, back in the late 90s, the Irish government and industry got together to discuss, what is going to be the future roadmap for the country? What is going to be the driving economic factors that lead us to success? And there was a great collaboration at that time, and they decided, that high tech was going to be the way forward for the small country of Ireland. High tech, including semiconductors, nanotechnology in particular. And what came out of that was really quite interesting. Then in the early noughties, you know, a government agency was set up, Science Foundation Ireland, and they were given the remit then to help monitor and control the distribution of the research funding for the small country of Ireland. And what has actually happened then over the last years, and you know, Intel as a company in Ireland, you know, stepped up, wanted to be part of this. You know, we committed resources into research centres that were set up by Science Foundation Ireland, and we have our researchers in residence working directly with, you know, principal investigators in the universities, working on the topics that I said I was managing. You know, how to make a transistor in 10, 15 years from now. That worked really well, and it enabled me then to, you know, to set up you know, what we called our strategic memorandums of understandings with key universities here across Ireland. We have 6, and we have 3 pillars of activity, one of which is the research, helped by the government agency Science Foundation Ireland. So there's co-funding there, the leverage, the money we put in the staff to work with the researchers as well. A great spin-off of that is talent development as well, because you get to know a department, you get to know professors, you get to know postdocs, PhD students, and so on. So that's brilliant, and we've hired quite a few from that activity. Second pillar then is talent development, where again we have great collaboration across the university faculties and also with government. So a very similar project to what Salvatore was talking about in EIT Digital. There was a call in the just before the pandemic called the Human Capital Initiative in Ireland, right? You know, so this was a government levy that was placed on industry. The monies were saved, put into a kitty, and then industry informed universities what it is that we need to our students to learn. You know, both undergraduates, postgrads as well. You know, professional development, and projects were then funded with this money. You know, how do we also provide more spaces for students in universities? How do we engage with industry and enable the professional development that Salvatore was talking about? And how are we more agile? And the pandemic taught us how to be more agile anyways, right? You know, so we gained something positive from that nasty time. But that's also something that's happened in Ireland as well, the Human Capital Initiative, which is a great locking of the triple helix, if you will.
Thank you, Bernie, for this contribution. I wanted to shift the focus now on sustainability, and Yannick, I would like to hear from you next. Again, how do you think that these collaborations between industry, academia, and government can be sustained over the long term to ensure ongoing innovation and growth?
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be speaking after Anna and Bernie, because I think a lot of the things that I will be saying have already been said in a way. But I mean, long term is key to success here, and because we've seen over time that there's quite a few initiatives, like many of which have been introduced today, from the private sector, from academia, but also from government. I think we are 2 European Council conclusions coming. We have the European Years of Skills, etc. So the key to sustainability, at least from our perspective, in the long run, is tying it all together. It's really, how do we design policy and political support for all of this that will build on these best practices, and that will allow industry and academia to effectively do what we do best. And the key to that is effectively, and this has been said before, is structured collaboration between the government, industry, and academia during policymaking. I think we need to design structures which allow us to regularly talk to the government, from really the inception of legislation, the diagnosis of the issue, to design of legislation, to implementation, all the way across, so that we can effectively tackle the structural factors and not only align a separate set of initiatives. I wanted to briefly illustrate that with the way ASML works with 2 universities. I mean, we do work with many more, but these are two very nice examples. We, for example, have very long-standing structured cooperation ongoing with the University of Eindhoven, where we provide advice on curriculum design, where we provide exchange, where we provide our personnel to teach external lessons. And we do very much the same with the NCKU University in Taiwan. That has a dedicated semiconductor school. Now, the key difference here is that effectively in Eindhoven, this is a university and ASML-driven initiative that we sort of decided that we were natural partners in that specific context. What is different in the Taiwan context is that effectively the Taiwanese government got together with local academia, including the NCKU, with local and foreign industry that were present, to actually have a dialogue on what are the needs specifically, how can these needs be addressed, what are our strengths on the ground, and how can then the government provide a platform, provide policies and legislation that allow that remove the barriers to collaboration, that incentivize people to actually reproduce these types of schemes. So effectively, it would be very interesting if in Europe we can, and the CHIPS Act is a good start there, these centers of excellence, but if in Europe we could structure that collaboration between the government, the industry, and academia, so that we can come to a common diagnosis on what we actually need in the areas of skill, and so that the policy, which I think will come and that we ultimately need, will also specifically address specific issues and build on all of the initiatives that are already happening in Europe at the moment.
Thank you, Yannick. So in the sense, it ties back to something that Anna mentioned at the beginning, this necessity to communicate the needs, and I wanted now to turn to the perspective of one of the interlocutors that you mentioned yourself, so government, and I wanted to turn to Roland to hear your reactions to this discussion, and on top of that, expand my question to you to talk about harmonization of education and training programs. We would like to know from you, how does harmonization of programs and enhance mobility across member states can help address the skills shortage, and what's the role of industry, academia, and governments in this?
Yes, so I tried bit by bit. Let me first react to a part of what was said before. I'll try to make a bit of a counter position to that, reflecting also what was written in the chat some minutes ago. That I think our goal is to create, of course, opportunities for academia and industry to exchange and create the right framework conditions so that, for example, curricula can be adapted to industry needs. But it is important for us to always see the broader picture. Of course, we're talking about microelectronics today, and it's an important topic which we're pursuing in our unit. But there are many different sectors which have the same kind of problems. And as a country, we in some ways need to stay flexible. That means balancing needs that are very tailored to specific industry, specific companies, balancing this with the need for a more general education that turns out highly skilled people, but which are able to be flexible and be able to work in different industries. However, not excluding the collaborations several of the speakers before described. Anyways, I can also talk later about how we tackle this in microelectronics in Germany. Let me come then to the second part of your question. I think what we see now in Europe is a lot of investments in microelectronics, when it comes to fabs, when it comes to equipment, also when it comes to design. Cyprel is an example for this. That means there is a broad increase in need for talents. It also means we need to source from all of Europe for talents. And by harmonizing education and also increasing the mobility of students, we can more easily tap into this huge European talent pool. But I think there are no illusions there that there will be competition for talent. Europe is big, but I mean, there's a lot of activities going on. So we will be competing for talent, but we need to do this in the most, let's say, friendly way we can do in Europe as a European community. And let me come back now to how we tackle this in Germany right now on the local and regional level. There are, of course, a lot of collaborations between local industry and universities there to really tackle the local needs. We are building up and started a so-called Microelectronics Academy that at the Microelectronics Research Fab. It's a distributed academy. That means on many different locations, it can team up with the local partners and the local ecosystems. For example, universities, vocational training institutions, industry, and then bundle this together and give a quality push to the education by sharing, for example, best practices, identifying gaps, and creating courses for re- and upskilling, for example.
Thank you, Roland. I would like to maybe first complete the picture with the perspective of Francis on this topic, and then we come back with any other input. Maybe Bernie, we can come back to you. But first, I wanted to hear the take on this of the founder of this Sinano Institute that connects research centers around Europe. And from your perspective, what are some successful examples of collaborations, activities for skills development, Francis? And can you share any examples of this? And what is the value added of why do you think these examples are successful?
Yeah, I would like to focus today on the Sinano Institute, which is in fact the largest European network of competence centers. I mentioned Sinano gathers 25 university and research centers from 15 European countries. And so I think Sinano Institute has been successful because it is in fact a durable integration, which has been launched 15 years ago. So just after Sinano Network of Excellence in FP6, so under the impulse of the European Commission, which was interested to create this kind of long-term integration of academia. So and therefore, so we gather a large area of competencies, which is very interesting for training, for research and innovation activities. So as I mentioned, so this network of competence centers is very important in the framework of the European Chip Act. And so we are organizing in the framework of Sinano for sure many training activities, so the traditional university curricula with many universities, lifelong training also, which is very important, as I mentioned, many summer school at for bachelor, master, and PhD level. Also, several members of Sinano are involved in European University, which has been launched some years ago. Especially, we are looking at the best practice as in different university in order to strengthen the competencies of the different partners university. We're involved in several Marie Curie programs, Erasmus Plus International Master, which are very important at European and also international level to attract international students. Also, the exchange of researchers, postdoc, PhD, even master students is also very important for that training, using this large network with a lot of expertise. We also have exchange of new position for mobility between between many European countries. Another important point is we are using this large network of flexible research infrastructure. That is very important for innovation research, but also for training, for processing, characterization, and modeling research infrastructure. This network is used for many kind of activity and project. In the framework of the different activity, we have a strong collaboration with industry for both research, innovation, and training activity also in the framework of European project. And for sure, we have a natural and strong connection with the government, with member state, because so most of the university in Europe are public university, and so we have a strong connection in each country for education. Maybe also we can mention that we are working in the field of European international roadmap, so which are important to like the IRDS roadmap, international roadmap for device and system, in order to have some focus activity at the international level and to speed up innovation. Maybe I would like to mention some example of project in which we have been involved, like the IDEM Erasmus Plus project, which include special inclusion, diversity, and equity activity. Also, we are developing sustainable electronics for education. So in the framework of the Green Chip EIT Digital Europe program, which has been recently launched. And so it is very interesting. So this also this field of sustainable electronics to attract students, because students especially are very interested by to develop sustainable technology, especially sustainable electronics. We have also in the framework of Silano an EID plan, so for equality, inclusion, and diversity, we are organizing annual event with some grants for young researcher, for female researcher, in order to present their activity, to network with research lab, with industry, with the RTOs. I can say that so this long-term integration of Silano and so is allow us to strengthen our long-term strategy, which is very important at different level for research, training, activity. I would like also to mention the last point that the AIT Digital has been shown during this workshop, but we don't have any EIT knowledge innovation community in the field of semiconductors. The EIT is very important for innovation project, for startup support, but also for training from international master from PhD school, to attract European and also international students in this field. And so that I think the framework of this new very strong strategy European level, the CHIP Act, it will be very important to launch in the framework of Horizon Europe a new kick in the framework of European Institute of Innovation and Technology devoted to semiconductor, because the EIT Digital doesn't cover semiconductor, and so that is would be very important to strengthen the training activities to attract many students in this field.
Thank you, Francis. It's nice to hear that new opportunities are forming as we speak to collaborate. I wanted to quickly come back to Bernard, who had I believe his virtual hand raised earlier on, and then we will have to wrap up the panel to give you the break that we promised to you. So Bernard, back to you.
Okay, well, maybe I will jump into my main answer that I was going to give to the question. So Lucilla at the start of this meeting mentioned that there's been lots of announcements of new factories, new semiconductor factories being built in particular in Germany. And I'm very proud to say that I'm part of that. My remit now is looking at how we develop talent across Germany. So that's one thing. The other thing is I really enjoyed the answer of Roland as well. So myself and Roland are going to be good friends, I think, going forward, because what he said made a lot of sense to me. What you've got to understand is you've got to make the silicon first, right? Silicon is driving everything. Whatever, the problems are in the world, you always need silicon behind it. And we have a goal set in Europe that we want to be back at 20%, high-end silicon manufacturing by 2030. That's not far away, guys, right? And the talent thing is a huge issue, huge, right? Now, so far, we've only spoken really about undergraduates in academia, bachelors and then through to masters and then PhDs. 2/3 of any factory are technicians. This is a massive, massive topic that we need to tackle together. And what I would say to you is, yes, we all do compete for talent. And this is what Roland was saying as well. Yes, it is a competition, but really we should be collaborating to produce that huge talent pool that's necessary, right? So we need to be producing what I would call an umbrella of opportunity for all the students, that they can get involved and understand what's actually going to be the future. What can their careers actually be going forward? And it's an exciting career. I mentioned earlier, 87, 1st of May, walked into the fab, but wow, this is amazing. I want other students to have that same kind of impact, right? So we've got to create umbrellas, and the ideas are having lots of different locations with training centers. I've been to many in Germany recently, right? And I see the facilities they have. They're all capable, right? But we need to get an umbrella that's supported by government, that's backed by industry, all working together to produce technicians as well as engineers. Technicians, 2/3 of the population in a factory. Don't forget that. I want to give an example of something that I think is working really well in Ireland, and it goes further back. It comes back to what Anna was saying, and she's spot on. It starts in the school, right? It's okay, all well and good, working with students in universities. This is excellent, right? But they've kind of already half made their choice. They've decided they're going to do a STEM degree and what have you. What about the kids in the school who haven't yet made that decision? They are informed by the teachers as well as the parents, but the teachers play a pivotal role going forward. And I just want to bring to your attention one thing that we've been doing in Ireland over the last years, and we're putting it in front of government at the moment to hope that they will help us sustain it going forward. And that's a thing called STINT, the STEM Teacher Internship Program. So in the final summer vacation of a would-be teacher's university degree, the last summer holiday, they get an optional choice now to go and work for 12 weeks in a high-tech company such as Intel, Microsoft, Google. We have over 50 companies across the island of Ireland now participating in this program, and we have 6 universities that do teacher training, north, south, east, and west of Ireland also engaged. We started with 1, and we started with about 3 companies with a few students. At the moment, we have over 50 students each summer coming through that 12-week paid internship, where they actually find what it's like to be in a factory such as Intel. Oh my word, what an impact. Impact, a key word here. What is the impact? The impact is that they learn that we're not all Einstein, we're human, we have a good day at work, and we go off and do normal things at night. We're not all, strange. We're just normal people doing a wonderful job and having an impact on the planet. What else do? They then go through their final year, they go into their schools for their first year of teaching, and immediately they go to the headmistress or the headmaster and ask for funds. Funds for what? I want to buy microbits. I'm going to do coding with my kids. And they start doing new stuff, new activity with the children to get them drawn into the idea of STEM and MINT and get the interest levels up. They're also more informed to act as careers guidance. If you go into many schools today, the so-called careers teachers don't know really what the role is. They don't understand what modern industry is. They have no clue what's coming. So this is something that we really must change. And that's, something that we've started here in Ireland. It's called STINT. You can find it online. but it's something maybe I would love to bring across to Germany, Roland, and start playing with over here. And really get the teachers and students.
Thank you, Bernie. You will find it online. You will definitely find it in our post-event report. Before closing in and allowing you the break, I wanted to briefly give the opportunity to Frank Bosenberg to add a couple of words to the discussion. And then I think we can have 3:50 as a deadline for coming back. Frank, over to you.
Davide, can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah,
I mean, I love
please.
what Bernie was sharing with us. I really love this initiative. It's something that I'm for sure going to share with the guys from PERTE. But I would also like to highlight one thing. I mean, as I was saying, from an SME or startup company, we have other needs. We cannot really get the government as excited as Intel can do with a new fab in Germany or things like that. But we also are in need of skills and personnel. And yes, it's going to be crucial if we want to achieve this 20% in fabs, because if we don't design them, it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Anna.
Frank. Yeah, thank you, Anna. Basically, this was a perfect start for my introduction, as I would like to highlight there the importance of clusters, as I'm representing with Silicon Saxony. So it's a combination of companies. Yes, in many cases they are driven or at least influenced by large companies as well. But in the end, we are acting for our SME members, because I totally share your opinion. An SME cannot do what an Intel, what an Infineon, what an Global Foundries can do on its own, but cluster organizations can do this. And STEM education, as Bernie pointed out, is one of our activities. So I would like to urge you to have a look into our activities that we foster as a cluster organization in our region. Admittedly, it's a regional activity only. It's not a national, leave alone a EU-wide activity. But I guess we have some great examples of activities that can be outrolled, at least nationally, if not European-wide, and at least within the regions that are active in semiconductor industry, including design, which are far more than just Bavaria or Saxony in Europe. And I also agree, in particular, again, with Bernie, that we have to cheer up children, pupils for STEM. Basically, it's not yet semiconductors only. They have to be interested in STEM. And in the end, if they want to become a mechanical engineer, okay, so that's it. Because I also agree with what was written in the chat. If you bring the passion for the semiconductor industry, and it comes from alone in the end, I would say, because I'm a studied civil engineer, still I found my way into the industry. Once you got an engineering education, you are able to relearn and to adapt. But it's important you get into engineering. That's true in particular for girls. So I would also urge all the activities that foster bringing more girls into STEM education in a European-wide effort. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. As mentioned, I guess we are a bit late, but I think we can agree, if Silvana is okay with it, that we can take a 5 minutes break. After that, at 3:50, we'll come back because we have two great presentations and a very, very interesting panel discussion on inclusion in the sector. So you can take your break now and see you in 5 minutes.
In the last century, the semiconductor industry has experienced an extraordinary growth, and today, we can confidently say that chips are the major invention of our age. They are in our smartphones, laptops, appliances, and medical equipment. As of today, the global semiconductor sector is projected to become $1 trillion industry. But, if semiconductors are the future, why are there women underrepresented in the field?
To me, it's obvious that semiconductors are our future, and the future cannot be written without women.
So if already half of your potential workforce is unlikely to join your sector, that's a big problem.
Maybe I would be a great, engineer, and I try to avoid being an engineer because I don't see myself, I don't see anybody like me, like a woman in the field of engineering or something.
In all the technical, scientific fields, there's a gender gap.
Women really have a role to play there. Believe in yourself.
Europe cannot win this battle with just half of the talent pool.
So to all women out there, embrace a technical career and join the semiconductor industry.
In the last century, the semiconductor industry has experienced an extraordinary growth, and today, we can confidently say that chips are the major invention of our age. They are in our smartphones, laptops, appliances, and medical equipment. As of today, the global semiconductor sector is projected to become $1 trillion industry. But, if semiconductors are the future, why are there women underrepresented in the field?
To me, it's obvious that semiconductors are our future, and the future cannot be written without women.
So if already half of your potential workforce is unlikely to join your sector, that's a big problem.
Maybe I would be a great, engineer, and I try to avoid being an engineer because I don't see myself, I don't see anybody like me, like a woman in the field of engineering or something.
In all the technical, scientific fields, there's a gender gap.
Women really have a role to play there. Believe in yourself.
Europe cannot win this battle with just half of the talent pool.
So to all women out there, embrace a technical career and join the semiconductor industry.
In the last century, the semiconductor industry has experienced an extraordinary growth, and today, we can confidently say that chips are the major invention of our age. They are in our smartphones, laptops, appliances, and medical equipment. As of today, the global semiconductor sector is projected to become $1 trillion industry. But, if semiconductors are the future, why are there women underrepresented in the field?
To me, it's obvious that semiconductors are our future, and the future cannot be written without women.
So if already half of your potential workforce is unlikely to join your sector, that's a big problem.
Maybe I would be a great, engineer, and I try to avoid being an engineer because I don't see myself, I don't see anybody like me, like a woman in the field of engineering or something.
I think we can
In all
progressively
technical, scientific fields, there's a gender gap.
Women really have a role to play there. Believe in yourself.
Europe cannot win this battle with just half of the talent pool.
So to all women out there, embrace a technical career and join the semiconductor industry.
Welcome back, everyone. Come back. I would like to take just a couple of moments to introduce our next speakers before giving the floor to them. One of them is a familiar face if you stayed during the break. She appeared in the video that we just shared with you. Françoise Schombach. Françoise is a Belgian businesswoman. She is the chairwoman of the board and former CEO, and as well as one of the original founders of the company Melexis. She is also president of the STEM platform and independent advisory board to the Flemish government, aiming to encourage young people to pursue a STEM education. She defines herself with a wonderful expression, which is STEMinist, which means that she advocates for more STEM and more diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's equally a member of the SEMI Europe Executive Board for the EU Pact for Skills for Semiconductors, which is an initiative to support upskilling and reskilling to attract new talent. On top of Françoise, we also have with us today Cornelia Knuchan. Cornelia has the background in climate change policy and public sector digitalization. Over the last 3 years, she contributed to the launch and implementation of the Girls School Circular project, an EU initiative supporting girls aged 14 to 19 to develop their digital entrepreneurial skills and to learn about the circular economy. She supervises currently the Girls School Circular expansion to all the EU member states, while ensuring that the initiative reaches the strategic objectives set in the EIT Digital Education Action Plan. Françoise, the floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Davide. Thank you for your generous introduction. I now need to find my presentation, and we could start off. Do you see it all, and do you hear me well?
All good.
Okay, super. Let's go then for it. So indeed, from the personal experience that I have of over 30 years in the semiconductor sector, I have really come to recognize and value the power of diversity, equity, and inclusion as a catalyst for innovation, but also as an economic necessity. As an entrepreneur and indeed as a STEMinist, a lifelong advocate of more diversity in STEM, I'd like to talk today about the benefits of DEI and also about the risks we face if we don't act. But let's start by qualifying these terms. So diversity is like being invited to the party, whereas inclusion is being asked to dance. There is quite a difference. It's not sufficient to have just diversity. You need to make diversity work. And we've heard from previous speakers, if we have no chips, then we have no party. And I'm obviously not talking about the edible type of chips here. It's indeed true that the semiconductor ecosystem in Europe is not as strong as it can and should be. And the European Chips Act couldn't have come at a better time. Now, we can't throw a party if we don't have people either. So when we look at the problem, and let's set the scene here, the problem is not only that there is insufficient STEM talent around in the Union, but that there is, on top of that, a structural underrepresentation of women in STEM fields as a whole. The leaky STEM pipeline was already mentioned. We have indeed a leaky pipeline throughout the educational career, and it's a fact that the leaks are larger on the female side. Now, looking at a very recent McKinsey report, it appears that women occupy only 22% of all the tech roles across European companies. And we see a significant drop in the percentage of women in STEM during the transition from secondary to university, to tertiary education. And there it drops by 18% points. And during the transition from tertiary to the workforce, it drops another 15%. Now, if we look at all the industries, only 23% of women graduates end up in tech roles, compared to almost double, 44 for men. And this McKinsey report, and that frustrated me a lot, the problem is likely to get worse because women's graduation rate in STEM disciplines during higher education is declining further as we speak. So this is a huge burning platform. Now, as I said also in the nice video that ALLPROS just showed, Europe clearly cannot win this technology battle with less than half of the talent pool. But as an entrepreneur, I focus on solutions because every challenge is also an opportunity. Doubling the number of female STEM profiles is the best bet to solve Europe's talent shortage. But let's be very clear here. We are talking about 4 million women. 4 million. Now, it is my experience, and I come here to the benefits of DEI. It is my experience that companies with an inclusive culture thrive because diverse teams are just better at innovation. They create more diverse and more innovative ideas, and technology is in the end all about innovation. An inclusive culture is therefore a business imperative. And to state the obvious, when I talk to companies about DEI and then the eyes go rolling, I ask them to just think about how many women they have as customers in their customer base. Direct customers, could also be end customers if it's about a B2B, or potential customers that they want to reach. And then I ask them, just check how many women you have in the teams that take care of your product definition, in your development teams, in your sales and marketing, etc. And then I have them calculate the deficit itself. Now, you can do this with this calculation with any type of underrepresented group, but it's important to understand that women make out half of the consumers. Many household buying decisions are predominantly taken by women. So alienating half of your customers is definitely not a smart way of doing business. The second reason why I recommend companies to attract more women in all types of functions, including leadership, is that women in general are very well equipped for the 21st century workforce expectations. In a gender inclusive culture, also men stand to benefit. Women sure mean business, and gender balance is just one of the lead indicators of the level of inclusive leadership behavior in an organization, and it is a very easy one to monitor. Finally, society at large also benefits from inclusion. Also, their gender balance is just one of the lead indicators of the level of development of a country. And we need to start early, particularly in STEM. I heard about, let's start in school. Well, sorry, guys, it already starts at birth. If you know that boys are presented with, for example, or more often with toys that stimulate their spatial recognition skills than girls are, than baby girls are, then you know it already starts much earlier. So it starts with the parents and probably mainly also with the mothers. Now, let's look at a couple of examples of what happens if we do not pay sufficient attention to building diverse teams. Remember 2015, when Google's automatic image labeling software identified Black people as gorillas, or when Apple launched its first face recognition on iPhone, Asian ladies could open each other's phones. So clearly these development teams weren't diverse to start with. And why do we get this? Well, the reason is in fact simple, because if we don't have the problem, we don't think that they're so important, or we don't even think about the problem at all. Investing in DEI is also crucial to attract and retain young, diverse talent. It's clear that leaders, company leaders, more than often overestimate the effectiveness of their current programs, and they underestimate the challenges. So if companies do not create an environment where women feel welcome and supported, if companies aren't paying attention to whether women are allowed to work on cutting-edge projects, if leadership is not gender diverse, so if all those systemic barriers aren't tackled, companies stand not only to lose the women, they're also standing to lose many millennials and Gen Zs, because they value DEI 3 times more versus the older generation. And I'm one of them. I have my gray hair to prove it. Last but not least, in these times of ChatGPT and Bing and Bard and company, if the developer community doesn't diversify, we will not be able to tackle data bias or address data bias in data sets. And then AI will exacerbate inequality and social injustice on a global scale. And as in this excellent book by Criado Perez, when your big data is corrupted by big silences, the truths you get are half truths at best. And often for women, they aren't true at all. So when we're designing a world that is meant to work for everyone, we do need women in the room, and that's just the start. So we as an industry, we do have a societal responsibility to take the lead on DEI. Now here's the good news. We can unlock this potential. We know the pathways to closing the gender gap. And that's what the next speaker will be talking about, and I fully concur with those pathways. Now, just before I hand the stage to Cornelia, here are my 3 takeaways. First, there is a gigantic sense of urgency in Europe's tech industry, and women are Europe's best bet to close the talent gap. 2, we know that an inclusive culture contributes to innovation and thus to prosperity and well-being. And for us as a semi-industry, if we become a vigorous DEI champion, we will boost Europe's attractiveness as a great place to live and work, and that will in turn create a virtuous circle. If we thus do an image campaign for the European semiconductor industry, we must pledge that the vocabulary and imagery would be or will be as compellingly diverse and inclusive as the audiences that we will address. Thank you for your attention, and may the STEMinist force be with you. Cornelia, up to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francois. And this was a great introduction also for my presentation. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Today, I am representing EIT Raw Materials, one of the knowledge and innovation communities of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And it was nice to see that also Salvatore from EIT Digital is here. Hello. And today I'm going to speak about one of the initiatives that EIT is promoting to support young girls and women in joining STEM and ICT studies and careers. And this is the Girls Go Circular initiative, together with our flagship event, the Women and Girls in STEM Forum. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, just a second. I think now should be all fine, right? Okay, so Girls Go Circular, I have been working on this initiative for the past 3 years, and as it has been said in the introduction, it is coordinated by EIT Raw Materials with the support of EIT community, together with EIT Digital that is here today, and the European Commission, and more specifically DGAC. And the main aim of the initiative is to support young girls and women aged 14-19 to train their digital and entrepreneurial skills through an online learning platform on the circular economy. We have developed this huge learning platform with 15 learning modules and several languages to support girls to advance their digital skills. So far, we have trained over 26,000 girls in more than 700 schools. The project had started in 2020 with a pilot phase in 6 countries, but so far we are already present in 21 countries with plans to extend to all European member states. We have a few policy objectives, and mainly 2 European agendas are guiding our actions. And first, we have the Digital Education Action Plan. More specifically, Girls Go Circular is contributing to Action 13, encourage women's participation in STEM. And also the new European Innovation Agenda. And here we are closely contributing to EIT's flagship Deep Tech Talent Initiative. This is one of the latest initiatives at European level, aiming to train overall 1 million talents by 2025 with deep tech skills and knowledge. And here Girls Go Circular plays a relatively central role in trying to train young girls with deep tech skills. And with this, we are trying to contribute to the closing the gender gap in STEM and ICT. Therefore, the Girls Go Circular organizes each year the Women and Girls in STEM Forum, which is Girls Go Circular flagship event, as I was saying before. And here we are hosting high-level discussions to advance the EU agenda on gender equality. It is very nice, by the way, to see that Beatrice Boots is here. She was present at our first forum. That was a completely online event. And of course, since the war in Ukraine started, we are also supporting the students affected by the war, and Girls Go Circular is present in several Ukrainian cities. And this year we are increasing our efforts in this direction. And when it comes to the forum, we are gathering annually researchers, policymakers, and industry experts and connect them to the girls that participate in the Girls Go Circular learning program. And together we debate the ways forward in closing the gender gap in STEM and ICT. So far, we have organized 2 editions, one in 2021 and one in 2022. And now we are heading towards the 3rd edition that will happen by the end of this year on the 5th December. You are, of course, all invited to participate. This event is a hybrid one. It happens in Brussels, but we have, of course, live transmissions for everyone to be able to join. And every year after the event, we are creating a policy brief, gathering all the highlights and initiatives at European level that are supporting the efforts in closing the gender gap in STEM and ICT. And this is what I would like to talk a little bit about. As we have gathered several insights on this direction. And as have been mentioned before, there are several challenges that still need to be tackled to close the gap in these fields. And here, just to name a few, the first one, gender stereotypes in primary and secondary education. Here is where Girls Go Circular steps in and tries to dismantle such stereotypes, but we still have gender-biased organizational cultures, structures, and processes in the labor market, as has been mentioned by other speakers already. And we still lack a sufficient exposure to female role models, and there's not enough ample support to female entrepreneurs. However, a lot is being done already at European level, and there are measures that can be taken to move forward and advance the EU agenda on this topic. And first of all, We need to deconstruct gender stereotypes from early childhood years, because deconstructing gender stereotypes leads to a more welcoming mindset for young girls to want to join these fields, and also create a more impactful systemic change right from the start. As Francois was saying, this starts when young girls are very young, and we need to teach them that they can, and the STEM fields are also for them. And here, there are also other things that can be done. For example, supporting teachers in adapting their curricula so that they make it more gender inclusive, and also supporting extracurricular STEM and ICT activities that teach girls how to create and build their confidence, because we need to reduce the self-efficacy gender gap, meaning the level of confidence and the difference between young girls and boys. Furthermore, we need to connect STEM and ICT to concrete societal challenges, and this is what we have been trying to do on Girls Go Circular learning platform. Each of the learning module has a specific challenge and challenge-based approach, because adding real-world context to STEM and ICT fields broadens their appeal. So here I'm talking specifically about the STEAM approach, so adding arts to STEM, because by linking STEM subjects to political, environmental, social, and cultural aspects and context, raises their visibility, but also social values, and makes them more attractive to a wider audience, and makes them more concrete, so to say. We should not underestimate the importance of community, and here it is important that young girls and women have this support base, a receptive community that inspires them and drives their curiosity further. Several actions can be done here, such as peer-to-peer learning, inspiration, hands-on workshops, or in-person events for girls and women that create such a welcoming environment for them to pursue their interest in STEM and ICT, because such a collaborative approach can have a strong impact on retaining and attracting young girls. Moreover, we need to increase the visibility for female role models and their success stories. And this is, of course, connected to the point I have just mentioned before, because inspirational stories challenge gender stereotypes, right? So we need role models that pave the way for more girls and young women to follow them, and to follow them in ICT, careers, studies, and STEM fields. So if young girls are supported by inspiring female role models, also more resilience is built when they are confronted with systemic barriers. And last but not least, we need to tackle the innovation ecosystem and the labor market, because reducing gender gap in STEM and ICT has a huge potential for boosting Europeans' economic growth and promoting regional development, as well as social cohesion, as has been already mentioned before, but it cannot be stressed enough. So we cannot achieve the digital and green transition with only half of the workforce, as Francois has just mentioned. So businesses should step up and change their cultures, for example, by gender-proofing job descriptions and advertisements to make them more inclusive, which would also lead the companies to embrace new values and make their cultures more inclusive. Because diverse teams are more innovative, more creative, which also leads to more revenues and successful ideas. Another approach that can be taken is to take care of the childcare aspects, for example, and offer flexibility for both women and men, so that this facilitates women's access to the labor market and allows men to take a more active role in parenting, for example, because gender equality means, in fact, more equality for everyone, right? And just to finalize, my main message here today for you is that systemic barriers are still prevent talented girls and young women for following a STEM and ICT career or study. And all the STEM and ICT actors should be aware of this and recognize the importance of closing the gender gap, and take measures to incorporate social inclusions and equity approaches. So without further ado, I would like to thank everyone for having me here today. And if you're interested in this topic and you have any questions or would like to talk more, do not hesitate to get in touch. Thank you very much. I can.
Thank you, Cornelia. Over to Françoise for the next session.
Okay, thank you, Davide. I have a very nice panel, very gender balanced panel as well. I hope that Christopher has arrived in the meantime. So I'd like to first invite the people to introduce themselves briefly. May I start with Tatiana?
Thank you, Françoise. Hello, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me to this very interesting workshop already. My name is Tatiana Vanteli, and I'm head of Brussels office for Eurotech Universities Alliance. We have 6 technical universities in our alliance, and these are universities from Denmark, Institut Polytechnique de Paris from France, TUI from Netherlands, and I can see a lot of colleagues from Netherlands here, so it's a pleasure that you are attending this workshop as well. Technical University of Munich from Germany, Technion from Israel, and EPFL from Switzerland. So European and non-European organizations are represented here. And I'm also chair of Equality and Diversity Working Group within our alliance. In this capacity, I'm sharing a lot of worries and a lot of hopes of many speakers before me, and I'm sure speakers who will participate in this panel. So that briefly about myself. I have a lot of experience working in different European and now non-European countries like the UK. I hope they will be back. Also Cyprus and Belgium, and not only in the education sector, but also in the NGOs and businesses. So that's my little background. Thank you, Françoise.
Thank you, Tatiana. And then the second panelist is Patrick Bressler. Patrick?
Yes, hello, this is Patrick Bressler. I too have to say thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. It's been very interesting what I've been able to follow so far. To come to myself, I work for Fraunhofer, for the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, or the Forschungsfabrik Mikroelektronik Deutschland, which is the microelectronics group of Fraunhofer. And Fraunhofer itself is 72 plus institutes, 30,000 staff, and a annual research budget of around 3 billion euros, just to put the picture. We are in charge of running the FMD office. The FMD is 11 of these institutes, and we are looking into the typical RTO themes of from the lab to the fab, and also workforce development. And I think this is where this comes to fruition as in this discussion here, maybe so far from my end.
Thank you, Patrick. And now we move to our third panelist, who is Michaela Tudor.
Hello, everyone. Very, very happy to be here and to listen to one of my favorite subjects that is, of course, empowering women and girls to pursue their dreams. I am the Global Vice President of European Women's Association. This is a huge ecosystem that helps women leaders, especially to scale their businesses internationally. But also we are supporting young women to boost their competences through workshops and networking. I'm also a serial entrepreneur in technology and PR and media, and I'm very much looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Michaela. Glad to have you. And then last but not least, we have Christopher Freeling.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you very much indeed for the invitation to this panel. It's my pleasure to be here. Myself, I'm Christopher Freeling from SEMI Europe. SEMI is the global industry association representing the microelectronics and electronics industry In Europe, we, on the one hand, which was mentioned earlier, managed the Secretariat for the Pact for Skills for Microelectronics, of which two board members, Francois and Patrick, are here on this panel today as well. Very glad to see you. And I'm also the coordinator of the project called METIS, Microelectronics Training, Industry and Skills. And also the new European Chip Skills Academy, a new Sector Skills Alliance project we will start this autumn as a follow-up of METIS. And most recently, we at SEMI put forward a proposal for a European Chips Diversity Alliance. And I think I will elaborate on that later on. Thank you, pleasure to be here. Look forward to it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Christopher. So let's start with the debate. I have a specific question for each of you, and I'd like to start with Tatiana Pantelli. So Tatiana, when designing and implementing skills development programs, how could we reach an exponential number of Europeans and at the same time ensure that inclusion is integrated? And what benefits could this bring to Eurotech, your organization, but also to the wider industry?
Thank you, Francois. Very good question. And we are thinking about this long and hard. First of all, as I mentioned, that we are technical universities, of course, and we are supplying the future workforce for our industrial partners, and it's very important for us to get it right. And our colleagues from the industry today were talking about skills shortage in the semiconductors industry, and not only in that one, in tech industry, that's an issue in general. So of course, we understand what kind of skills industry needs. We hope that we understand, because we work hand in hand with our industrial partners. So we know that you need software and design engineers and data scientists and cybersecurity experts, etc. But what else? So we're always asking ourselves, how can we design those relevant programs? But actually, when we're thinking about this, we also looking at the society, because of course, industry is very important. And we need to supply these talented engineers, but also we need to grow future citizens, and we need to grow engineers that understand the societal needs. And of course, here diversity and let's say inclusion and gender coming in the equation. So what can we do? What we are doing or trying to do already in one way or another. We think that in order to design diverse programs and develop diverse workforce, first of all, we need to design the diverse teams within our universities, those people who actually create those skills programs, those people who prepare academic programs to train our engineers. And of course, we apply the same logic as in industry. We in academia and education can develop better products, meaning better educational programs. How to do it? Of course, recruitment plays a big role here. And I give one example of one of the programs in our university, one of our universities, Eindhoven University of Technology. We have Irene Curie Fellowship. And it began in 2019, and the program opened up academic jobs exclusively to women applicants for 6 months in a bid to achieve greater balance between women and men in academic positions. And since the start of this program, 57 women have been hired as permanent academic staff at the UE. For full professors, 2 associate professors, and 51 assistant professors. And in addition, 63 men were hired. This means that the growth in the number of women in academic positions at the UE doubled, which was unprecedented shift, and this never happened before. So we tried to do something big and bold to change the situation as quick as possible. And of course, as Cornelia mentioned before, for example, such things as gender-proofing job description are also important and needs to be applied here. Another aspect, so again, how to design better programs, we need diversity in leadership, because of course leadership in education work with leadership in industry, and they need to ensure that academic programs reflect this. At the moment, we know that women account for 42.3% of academic staff and only 23.6% of rectors in higher education. And it's the same in our institutions. We have 6 universities and 6 presidents are male, white male. So unfortunately, that's the case. And again, this is an area for improvement. But we started by appointing the first female rector magnificus, Sylvia Leonard, in one of our universities, TUE, and this is again a breakthrough because this never happened before. What else should we consider? Social aspects, of course, social sciences. They should be an integral part of the curricula in the engineering school. Technology is neither good nor bad, but it's also not neutral. So it's socially shaped and requires diversity of perspectives and voices if we truly want to ensure that we do no harm with tech and provide better outcomes for people and planet. And of course, we need to raise awareness of the value of diversity and inclusion. And okay, we all know that this is good and this is noble to address gender equality, ethnic equality, and many, many others, and inclusion. But sometimes we need to talk figures. We need to talk what matters in terms of cold, hard financial reasons. We should promote that also more diverse teams make better business decisions and make simply more money. And the future leaders also need to understand that, to apply this hard logic when they become future leaders. And of course, we need to collect and share data. It's very difficult to find information actually. What do we have in terms of inclusion, in terms of diversity in industries and in academia, because in some of the countries, it's even illegal to collect this data. But it is very important to compare and to understand our baseline and to see how we can move from there.
Okay.
And with regards to the benefits, just 4 last bullet points, Françoise. Better product.
Yeah, quickly, please, so
yes.
we can still hear the others too. Yeah.
Sure. Better products that are accepted by more people and hence more customers, higher profitability, greater innovation and creativity, and simply better environment for people to work and thrive.
Okay, great, Tatiana. So I retain big and bold. Let's go for it. Now, moving to Patrick, we heard how essential a culture of appreciation is for diversity. What actions do you feel businesses can take to promote such a culture? How can they integrate these actions into internal training and skills development programs? And how to get as many engaged as we possibly can?
Yes, very, very big questions. 3. Let's say, I look at it from the perspective of an RTO like Fraunhofer. We serve industry. We will go for contract research with industry. We train our engineers. We can provide or assist on the culture change for businesses making a stage. Within Fraunhofer, we have something like a Chancengleichheit group, which means equal chances groups. That because Fraunhofer itself has gone through a transition in the last 5 to 10 years, from moving, for instance, from an executive board that was purely male to now 2 out of 5 executive directors of the board being female. And it goes through the whole institutes down the line as well, that there is a need to provide more the Chancengleichheit motives. Now, what you can do, and what I think businesses can pick up from what we are also trying to do, is in this diversion, equity, and inclusion, aspect. Move to belonging is the word you hear in the US in the last 3 years very frequently. To create groups like this Chancengleichheit group, to have an exchange of views and thoughts to, the question is how to get all of the stakeholders, and I mean the white old men as well, without having them, when they hear these groups, it's either they're the villains or they have to talk to victims. And you want to have on both sides an inclusion while at the same time not giving the bias comfort, the existing bias. And if you can have these groups, and they're not limited to say one specific topic or so, this means minorities, refugees, all kinds of topics. You get the discussion, and what you want to do then is introduce such discussions into other groups, integrate that into groups, say, looking at the perspectives and opportunities for jobs and job training and skills and development and workforce development. Fraunhofer is also working on a microelectronics academy where these aspects are very crucial to be integrated to get the entire community engaged without the alienation. So it's much also by opening up these groups or getting these groups to talk into, say, training network meetings and perspective analysis groups to draw awareness of the bias. It's very good to have people act as reviewers and themselves, and just in exercises to think about how would they review a project, how would they review this or that, to become aware of their own unconscious biases, and then to move that into a constructive, say, educational program. The other opening line we see, RTOs train engineers or classical engineer career at Fraunhofer will be 5 to 7 years, and then they move on to industry. That means in that period of time, you can create a culture shift and change. You can train engineers to be more open-minded in terms of diversity and inclusion, and they move to the companies and bring this culture with it. The line there is a culture transfer or change or a technology transfer. It always goes with the people. So it's always people transfer. Yeah, and it's when you move the people into businesses who have this additional training and awareness of their own bias and diversity and equity issues, that's what businesses can do.
Okay. Super, thank you for your insights, Patrick. And let's move to Michaela, and we need to be a bit quick because we're running a bit late. Now, Michaela, you're an experienced entrepreneur in communication, technology, and media. So what are the specific actions that you would advise to take to empower exponentially more women to pursue STEM-related fields and careers in Europe?
So I truly believe that women should open more doors to women, because mainly it's not accustomed for us women to be very united. As far as I've seen in European Women's Association, many women embraced this organization because is one that really helps other women, giving them support, helping them get the courage to pursue whatever they dream of, and understanding that you have a safe place where there are no, sorry to say again, white men, where you can really follow up on whatever you want to follow up. This is me personally, opening door for women. But when it comes to technology, even though Romania and Bulgaria shine in Europe in this aspect, and me personally, I'm a Romanian, I can tell you that it's very hard to find women still that you can hire, or investors, to convince investors to reinvest in businesses owned by women. Me personally, I have talked to so many investors, and I can still see that they are very reluctant. And when it comes to European Women's Association and me as a professional, what we are doing is having alliances, partnerships, networking, workshops, promoting role models, doing enough events where girls, not only women, are welcomed and helped to understand that now things are changing fast. The environment is more welcoming, even though we are not there yet, right? But we can, if we start from companies and schools and organizations that are women founded and formed, and we can join forces and change this paradigm that for sure is not helping nobody.
So female alliances, and again, you also mentioned the implicit bias that we have to make conscious for everyone. Thank you very much, Michaela. And now for our last panelist and our last question, turning to Christopher, how can we leverage skills development initiatives to support this effort? And what specific programs or partnerships could you explore to achieve this goal? Semi-Europe, for example, does some. And how can we reach the right stakeholders massively?
Yeah, I mean, I'll structure my hopefully very brief answer in 3 points. The first one being, I think, first of all, I think we still have a need actually to develop further intelligence, evidence, and examples specific to the microelectronics and semiconductor sector. So we talk a lot about women in tech or diversity in general in tech, but our industry to some extent is very specific. Some of the work happens in shifts. Some of the fabs operating 24/7. The work is happening. Some of the work is happening in clean rooms. So I think the obstacles or the bottlenecks of, for instance, having a family life and working in the semiconductors sector are very specific. So I think there is, I think one thing we can do is develop more examples, for instance, of companies that have adapted their shift models around this, to see what evidence do we really have in the semiconductor sector, how companies are doing better than others, within the sector, and because of diversity, and how can we, what are the bottlenecks that we can work on? That's the first one. And I think it's been mentioned a lot. I think we can, with dedicated training to very dedicated target group, I think it's very diverse. For instance, we've talked a lot about job ads, for instance. I think training HR managers to develop job descriptions that don't have a bias is very important. But it goes along the entire education chain, I would say. Why not make it obligatory to have diversity classes in engineering degrees already? So to make the students aware from the beginning of the benefits. Same applies to any project manager. Your project, your meeting can be diverse or should be diverse. You can have training, you can have guidelines for it. And last but not least, I think it's all about communication. And I think Michaela mentioned some examples of, women opening doors. So I think something we also put forward in our project proposals are, prizes, highlighting role models across the EU, creating role models, ambassadors that, get the attention that they deserve, and then also create mentorship programs within the industry to really build up a network within the semiconductor industry to promote diversity. And I'm not only talking about gender. I think it's also an industry where, for instance, we have a very aging workforce. So it's often the diversity is also about young and elderly staff, for instance, so it's easy difficult to get in. Of course, we have many other aspects of diversity, be it race, etc., etc. So I think we shouldn't forget about that either. I think that's also important. Issues often difficult to measure because we don't have, let's say, it's very easy to count the portion of women in a company, but all the other ones, apart from age, maybe are more difficult. And that's why my 3 points. That's it. More evidence, more intelligence, more examples. Then I think, try and train the right people along the entire chain. And I think, communicate all over the place, and don't preach those that have already been, that are already convinced. We need to convince those that are still out there, kind of not getting the advantages of it.
Okay, well, thank you for these couple of new avenues, Christopher. And I would say with that, I give it back to Davide.
Okay, we'll let Silvana introduce the final session. We want to thank all the speakers and panelists that have joined us today, because all the insights are very interesting, and we're very happy to have you in our sessions.
Indeed, thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, Davide. Thank you for being really good on timing. I know you've been all under pressure. So without no further ado, we're going to move to our final session, and an extremely important one for all of our participants and speakers, because we have both Stefano Selleri and Yanis Gaviotis, both from DG Connect of the European Commission. We'd like to thank them for their time, obviously, and they will be discussing the new calls that are coming up. So I'm going to pass the floor immediately to you, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you very much, Stefano. Yanis, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Silvana. Do you see the screen?
We can see that, yes, that's no problem.
Okay, so last effort, just to describe very quickly the new course of the digitals in advanced digital skills. They were mentioned at the very beginning by Lucilla Scioli. Actually, we have just published the past week 2 new courses, one on reinforcing skill in semiconductor and the other one boosting digital skills of young people, in particular girls, that will be presented after me by the colleague Ioannis. And let's start immediately with the first one, reinforcing skill in semiconductors. Actually very linked, let's say, to what we have been discussing all this altogether this afternoon. I don't need to set the background of the call, because everybody knows. I can go directly to the objectives of the call that are actually increasing the visibility of the semiconductor industry, upskilling, of course, and reskilling and training and providing education together between university, vet providers and businesses, and of course promote gender equality in the semiconductor sector. So these are the main, roughly speaking, objectives of the call. From the practical point of view, the consortia must commit to twofold action. The first one, once again, in visibility of the semiconductor sector. The idea, as we have discussed, is to let the young people to understand what does it mean and what are the impacts in our daily life, and how semiconductor and microelectronics can be seen as an enabler of the future, of our future, and the impact in our daily life again. The second action is the support and development of networks that can be networks for academia or network for vet providers. And once again, I would like to stress the need of a joint approach between industry and academia or vet providers, because we have indeed to talk to each other to better redesign contents of our training and our educational activity. In particular, for what concerns visibility, I don't want to go through all this point because of lacking time, but of course, once again, we need a communication campaign and a strong activity in secondary school, focused both on students and on people and on teachers, of course. And the gender imbalance, of course, is one of the main problems that we have to take care, and this is addressed by the call in a very strong action required by all the consortium. For what concerns the training education, once again, what we have already discussed, I don't need to go once again through all this point. So I would like to skip directly to the next slide, just to highlight that for what concerns the education program provided and delivered by academia, by university, the idea is to focus on three particular sectors of the semiconductor value chain, that is chip design, chip manufacturing, and packaging, rather than defining activity on let's say general microelectronics or general semiconductors. So these are the main focus identified by the call. This means also, if you go back to the targets that we have highlighted, that consortia must be composed by, must comprise organization able to deliver communication events, of course, semiconductor industry, and of course, higher education institution and web providers. So this is a good blend, I mean, of all the possible participants and members of the consortium that the call is looking for. Timeline and some additional information. The call has been just launched last week, as I said. We'll close in September, and you will see other relevant data here in the slide. And actually is a simple grant. This means 50% funding rate, and we expect a grant around 5 million euro. And the minimum number of participants are 5 from each different eligible countries. But I fully, given the short time we have now, I really invite you to have a look at the code document that has been already published. And if you wanted to attend the next info day, that will be on the 5th of June, so very soon, in a couple of weeks. I can stop here and leave the floor to my colleague Ioannis for the presentation of the second call. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Stefano. Over to you, Yanis. And I think we have a question and answer, so we can, maybe you can have a look at that, Stefano, in the meantime. Yanis, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Ioannis Gaviotis. I'm working here in Luxembourg for DG Connect. And my team and my unit is responsible for this call about the boosting of digital skills of young people, and particularly girls. Now, I was hearing before a very interesting remark by Bernard Capraro that said that how we're going to close the digital gap, and especially for girls. And he suggested that we should start quite early. And basically, this is the approach that is taken by this call and the project that will come out of it. Please. So we are talking about a call that wants to set up a project with very specific and targeted target groups and aims. So we want, in general, to have the boost in the digital skills of young people, and I will be very concrete about what young means to us, 6 to 18 years old, so students up to high school. There is special effort taken in the call so that we increase the chances for girls in particular, and we want to direct them towards studying STEM and ICT, and to let them have a glance of what could be a digital career for them in the future. The keywords for this call is that we want to raise awareness on the relevance of coding and computational thinking, because as we are talking about small minor people and children, it would be good to, let's say, introduce them to not only just digital skills. For example, someone who is talking about kids and digital skills may think that, okay, they should know how to use digital devices, but the kids, they already know about it. So we are targeting coding and computational thinking, which is, again, very specific. And in order to achieve this thing, not only we target pupils and students, but of course, more importantly, there are teachers in schools. Okay, because they are the people who are going to let the new kids embark in this trip.
We all know about the stereotypes that girls don't do ICT, so we want to push it, and in this call there is special provision about the girls being part of the whole trip. Next, please. So let's get more concrete. What are the objectives? Some of you may have already known CodeWeek.eu, which is basically the existing initiative that addresses these things. CodeWeek has already set up networks of students, teachers, schools, administrative staff from schools. We have been doing trainings of teachers, and there are many campaigns that try to engage all those people in the framework and make them focus their attention to coding and computational thinking. So basically, the new call is trying to expand and enhance the existing initiatives. So maybe I will not have the chance, and I don't really want to talk in this presentation about numbers, but there is a substantial increase in the budget for this project, because one project is going to be financed by this call. So yes, we have very concrete objectives, and we have very specific KPIs, targets that this new project should need to implement. Now, the second objective revolves around the balanced approach among boys and girls. So we understand that there is a gap between them, and we want to try to make it smaller. And there are very, very specific actions that we take. For example, we set up holiday and weekend camps. The new projects should cater for intracurricular and extracurricular activities. So events, career days, awareness raising campaigns, all those things are tools, not only communication tools, but actual training efforts that try to lessen, to make this gap between boys and girls smaller. Next, please. So what would be the optimal, let's say, consortium or the required participants in the consortium so that they could apply for this call? First of all, we need to have some organizations that focus on education, pedagogy, and community building. Let's say the subject matter experts in some sense for this specific call. There should be someone else catering for the communication and social media channels that need to convey the message and make it visible all around the place. A very significant part of this new project and this call has to do with the information system that needs to be in place and support all those actions, have a single point of entry so that every information is there, every management of any communication activity is around there. So we already have one system in place, but much more will be needed in the upcoming call. And of course, there should be someone catering for impact assessment so that we know where we were, where we are going, how money is being invested, and what is the real outcome. So I would not like to spare any of your time. I'm open to questions. What I would advise if someone is really interested in participating in this call, there is a very substantial, let's say, an informative event happening in the 2nd of June. It is hosted by our Digital Skills and Jobs platform. You are welcome to participate. Of course, I can answer any if you have any questions now, but for any further information, you are welcome to join this event. Thank you.
Excellent, Yanis, and Stefano, thank you both. That was extremely insightful. The presentations, as we know, will be available. So we have all this data in the presentations that you've just seen. So don't worry, they're not going away. Do make a note of the 2nd of June. We did answer one of the questions that came into the Q&A. Thank you, Stefano, for that. Anything else, you're welcome to come back to us with any follow-up. I'd like to thank, obviously, all of the speakers that you see here. Thank you for staying on. We've had an incredible numbers up until the end of the session. We've gone slightly over, but we think it was worth it. In fact, if we have a look at the statistics of some of you who are there, here we are at a glance. There were 70 registrants, 50 organizations represented, covering 17 countries, and you have the representation here of the statistics, which we're most grateful for, again, for your time. Some principal takeaways very quickly. We're not going to go through them all, but I'd like to thank the ALLPROS consortium who managed to pull out some of the most salient points. Just want to pick up some of the things in bold: offering the scholarships, implementing programs that meet industrial needs. Clearly, experimentation and innovation needs to go hand in hand. From undergraduate students, but then starting at the levels of schools, obviously, in particular also for girls. The need to collect and share data on inclusion in different countries, harmonize education, increase students' mobility. And it's nice that we heard also that the unity to collaborate to cultivate a robust, diverse and motivated talent pool under an umbrella. And I think umbrella is key here. We've managed to get you wonderfully all here today. We will be continuing this exercise in the following weeks and months in a much more prescriptive way. A video is coming out very shortly with some of you specifically around the skills shortage. So please look out for that. If you're not following us, please do. And we'd like to also create a shared timeline on some of these initiatives from the educational point of view that some of you have already indicated, with dates, with specific objectives. If we can get this out onto ALLPROS in our shared timeline in terms of a shared calendar, I think that would be extremely useful too. So I'd like to thank Davide from White Research. Personally, I'd like to thank the European Commission, Stefano, Yanis, Lucilla this morning, and Thomas Reiber and Ariane Vegas and Matthew Zuarev. For more information, here you are. And I'd like to wish you all a wonderful afternoon. The recording is here. Thank you. Brilliant interventions, really super. Indeed, thank you, Francoise, for reminding me the STINT initiative should be part of the takeaways. You're absolutely right. This is crucial, and I think, Bernie, if you haven't done, you should also share what DCU have done in that nice video from STINT, but the whole teacher cooperation is key. I'll be meeting some of you also in June, the European Commission, to discuss this further, which is great. And thanks again. There will be a post-event report, okay? So look out for that, and we're going to take all of your considerations on board and pull that out as soon as possible. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful afternoon. Let's try. I'm a mother with 2 girls. I'd love them to come into this. So let's see really if this can start really from high school, if not elementary or middle school. But this has got to change. And it will. Thanks all. Have a wonderful afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.